time.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the January 18th meeting of the City Council of the City of Cannon Falls to order. Could we have roll call, please?
Bringle.
Here.
Duncan.
Here.
Yasmi.
Here.
Cronenberger.
Here.
Lindell.
Here.
Montgomery.
Here.
Alta.
Here. Would you rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the agenda. Anybody have any corrections or additions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Bringold, second by Lundell to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, public input. Is there anybody here tonight that's has any public input other than Bluff Drive? Anybody? All Bluff Drive, okay. Well, then we won't get into the public input then, because you'll have a chance to talk at the public hearing for Bluff Drive. Anybody who wants to talk? Okay, public hearing, we'll open that up. Well, actually, it's Resolution 2607. It's ordering improvements and directing preparation of the final plans and specs for Bluff Drive. I'll turn it over to Bill. He's got some before we open the public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor. So just a little bit of background. I think this is the first public hearing that Neil and I will be doing with you. So just a little bit of what we're doing, also explain to the audience. So in a second here, I'll go to the podium. We have a presentation. And, this process that we're following here is, following Minnesota Statute 429 is fairly prescriptive in what we have to do. So we'll kind of walk through the steps. And the intent is there. I'll give the overview of what the project is, some of the statutory steps we have to require, and then I will sit back down, and that would be the chance for the public to come up to the microphone, state their name, address, and then provide input to the city council. Some of it could just be an opinion, some of it could be in the form of a question. And then, Mayor, you can decide if you would like Neil or myself to answer, any questions. At the culmination of this, as you mentioned, Mayor, you have a resolution in your packet that you will entertain. About the resolution, when we do assessment projects, there's two types of projects. They're either petition-initiated projects or council-initiated projects. This is a council-initiated project, so that means the city council started this process several months ago when you commissioned the preparation of an engineer's report for this. So what that means, when you do consider the resolution, you'll take into account the testimony of anybody in the public, but it does have to be supermajority to pass, so that is one of the stipulations. So with that, I'm going to switch spots here. And I am glad to see all the AV is working. So, okay, so as I mentioned, so what we'll talk about, the items on the screen though, so we will talk about the area to be assessed, which is roughly 15 homes on Bluff Drive. Then these other items that we really covered, based on statute. So the background, what we're proposing. We do have to outline the process so everybody understands that. We will talk about our general schedule, costs, and then lastly, as I mentioned, public comments. So the project area here, so it's Bluff Drive, if everybody's familiar where that is. And what we're proposing is approximately 15 homes. So the area in red is the construction area, and the area in blue, the properties that are proposed to be assessed. Okay, so a little bit about this. So council, you did receive a feasibility report on this. That is in the council packet tonight. So there's some more detail to support the discussions that we're having. But you did review that at your December 7th meeting. And just in summary, this is a development that was never completed. So the final lift of blacktop is traditionally done, the year after a subdivision is put in, and this subdivision has sat idle for many, many years. So in essence, this project, the city is taking over from the developer, and you're in essence finishing the project. So finishing the project means final layer of blacktop, and then also other items related to some settlement of some curbs, some patching, etc. The city council did direct staff. So Dan and staff members from our firm went out. We checked the fire hydrants, the valves, the manholes, etc. So I think you may have heard the term punch list. That's a list of incomplete items. So we don't have a big list, which is fortunate. So, but all those items will be incorporated into the plans. Okay. So as I mentioned, what we'll do is we have replaced some settled curves. We do have some manholes that require adjusting, that final lift of blacktop, and then also we will be installing a sidewalk on the north side of the road. So my understanding is I think Neil's received a couple questions on that. So just wanted to highlight the reason why we have sidewalk, because that was in the original plan. So sidewalk is required, or is part of your ordinance. The subdivisions just to the west that connect to this all have sidewalk on one side of the road, and sidewalk was stubbed, connected from the intersection, stubbed in on the north side. So we're basically going to finish that process that was started again several years ago. All right, and then as I mentioned, Minnesota Statute 429. So we follow this process, and then we have to explain this to the public as well. It's just part of what this public hearing is. So first, the council determines the need for a project. So you've already done that, as you have ordered that engineering study performed, which I just mentioned you reviewed about a month ago. So tonight is the third bullet. So we're holding that hearing on improvements. I like to call this the thumbs up or the thumbs down. Are we moving forward or are we not moving forward? So there is then you're going to hear that tonight. And then you will authorize in that same resolution the preparation of the plans and specifications. So following statute, then we would publicly bid the project where we take the lowest bidder. And at that time, then we would have another hearing. So tonight, I call this the initial hearing. It's the thumbs up, thumbs down hearing. The final hearing then is when we actually tell people their prices. So everything we have tonight is estimates. Okay, we won't know the actual final assessment until we bid the project. Okay, that's also when you will determine financing terms. So historically, most cities will allow people to levy this against their property taxes. Neil and I, we haven't had this discussion yet, so we're a little premature, but we typically take this back to the Public Works Commission. But oftentimes, the city will allow a resident to, you'll pick a term like 10 years, maybe 15 years, and the most common thing to do then is you charge interest, typically 1 percentage point over what you would pay. So for example, right now, if you pay 2%, you may choose 3%. But again, I like to bring that up because oftentimes in this hearing we'll have people asking about that. That's not really what the intent of this hearing is, but if we can answer a couple questions that may help, but that will really occur at a later date. Okay, and then after that final assessment hearing then, at that final assessment hearing, that's also when people can contest their assessment. So that would mean that they would present testimony to you of why their property is not worth more after the project than it was before. Okay, so statute says that your property needs to be worth at least the amount that they're being assessed. Their value of the property goes up that amount. Okay, they would present that to you, and then you are the decider of that. Okay, so you would hear that testimony. If someone did appeal their assessment, you are the body to hear that, and then you would decide at that meeting. Now, they can also appeal to district court, but they start with you first. Okay. After you would hear that, then you would decide to award the construction contract, and then project would begin. Okay, and then here is just our timetable. So we're still in the same timetable we had previously laid out. So again, those first two items are here tonight. If you do move forward, we're anticipating coming back with the plans at our second meeting in April, receive bids, second meeting in May. And then that final hearing would be in June. Construction would start roughly July, end in the fall. And again, this may change a little bit, depending upon, how council meetings go. Some of the things, we'll have to get prepared. It could change slightly, but this is really what we're intending at this point. Okay, and then lastly here, costs. So again, there's a complete breakdown in the report, but total estimated cost is $105,000. And then there's 15 lots based on city policy that would be assessed 100%. Okay, why 100%? 100% because this is what I call, maybe Neil and I call, first-time improvements. Okay, meaning that this development was never finished. So before a city typically would take a development over, all the blacktop would have to be installed, all the sidewalk would have to be installed. So until that's been put in the first time, that's typically all the developer's cost, or in this case, the homeowner's cost, so hence the 100%. This was a reconstruct project, then we have different rules and different percentages that apply. So 15 divided by 105, it's 7,000 a lot. Again, that's our estimate, so we'll know the actual number after we do the bids. Okay. So Mayor, that ends my presentation. So I'll just leave that slide up, and then I'll go back to my chair, and people can address the council.
Okay, let's open the public hearing on Bluff Drive. If you want to come forward, this is your time.
Chris Albrecht, 6670 Bluff Drive. And my wife here, Dinah, is here as well. And certainly we've been up there the longest, so we've been there since we were the first house on Bluff Drive. A couple things. Top coating, absolutely all for it. The repair of the curb and gutter, absolutely. Manholes, etc. The one challenge I have is the sidewalk. A few years ago, citizens of Edina successfully sued Edina when they were attempting to put in sidewalks in certain neighborhoods because they found that it adversely affected the character of the neighborhood. And in fact, I did some research, and across the country, even though it is mandated by statute in a lot of places, it is not necessarily a requirement of a subdevelopment. And there are a couple reasons I take issue with the sidewalk. One, we're essentially going to be a dead-end street, and certainly I've been up there long enough to see what kind of foot traffic that we have. And traditionally, sidewalks serve two purposes. One is the public safety. If you have a large, heavily trafficked road, you want people off the road and on a sidewalk. And then secondly is the character or the good enjoyment of that area, in other words, shopping, etc. Not a lot of shopping up there, and not a lot of homes. As you can see, we have 15 homes. So in regards to the sidewalk, our lots are a little shallower than the current sidewalk that runs down actually Cedar Hills. We're 5 feet shorter in our setback according to what's currently on Cedar Hills. And it's just a sidewalk continuing through the properties on that side really make it difficult for two reasons for me to develop my lots that I own that are next to me, in that I have some bluff top setback issues with rules in Minnesota for how close I can run a property on the back side of the property to where the bluff starts to decline. And unfortunately, it's not the main drop down to County 25. It's actually where the level stops and it drops down. So I have some real restrictive, and it would put me at a bit of a burden to be able to properly, I'm tilted the table, properly develop my two properties. And, as for people being able to walk it, I drove a lot of Cannon Falls. There's a lot of Cannon Falls with no sidewalks. I mean, I kind of ran some miles up, and it's actually miles of Cannon Falls with no sidewalks. So my take on the sidewalks is no. On everything else, absolutely. My neighbor mentioned a street sign. It would be really cool someday to get a street sign, because we always have to tell people to kind of, it's that road. So that would be nice to have finally a street sign up there. And then lastly, I would love to hear what's happening at the end of the road. Is there going to be an adequate turnaround or something? Are we going to actually slightly change that so it's a true cul-de-sac, or what is the plans? And I would also love to eventually hear, I hate for Cannon Falls to take 3 steps forward and 1 back. And I think I think all this needs to happen, but I think we should also have a good game plan with what we're doing here for what some of the future plans are for the final development on the other side. Do we put a berm in? Is that park that was mandated in the original development, is that going to be there? And if so, how does it affect it? The last thing I wanted to say about the sidewalks is, it's just something I think we could probably take a pass on. So, and that's probably all that I have. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Rick Knowlton. I think a lot of you know me. Anyway, my son and I, we have 4 lots up there on Bluff Drive yet. And we're not against any improvements, except for the sidewalk, of course, at issue most everybody, and they'll come up and speak. I'm just speaking for ourselves. We're against the sidewalk. One, we have a lot of fill that needs to go in these lots and out. The blue shale clay's got to come out, and if the sidewalks are in on that north side of the road, that's going to create problems, because those trucks that sidewalk's not going to hold up. So either we delay that or cancel that part altogether, and we just soon have it canceled. As far as the end of the street, you guys know that I came for a variance one time and the street was closed. And it needed improvements. So my question back to you is, why isn't this end of the street included on these improvements? Because it is a turnaround for garbage trucks, mailmen, Amazon, police departments down there, checking to see if anybody's running around the city park. So it needs to be a turnaround. A lot of the residents on Cedar Hills would just as soon that somebody take this thing over Sandstone Ridge and get the road out to 25. That would allow safety, another exit, and wintertime, it's easier to come in on the flat than it is to come up the hill. And believe me, I've been up in that area since 77, so I know the hill very well. As far as a couple of the other issues, I think City Engineer calls this project a first build. But my belief is that the curb is not a first build. The curb was in there. It was taken over by the city. The street wasn't brought, the second pavement wasn't put on the street, but the curbs are in. City Council has made a stance back in 2017 or 18 for another addition across the north side of us, that they would take care of sagged curb in that area. And I just feel that the residents on Bluff Drive should get that same respect as they're getting. Other than that, as far as the street sign, I think I did talk to Dan at one meeting, and he was working on that. So.
What would you like to say?
Dalton Drive.
No, it's supposed to say Bluff Drive.
Bluff Drive, yeah.
I'm not going to rename the town. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Kelly Gibbons, and I am not a resident yet. I purchased the land a couple of years ago, and so I have a lot on, I think my address would be the 6683. I was not informed about this meeting. My mother told me about it because she lives up there also, and she has 3 lots, which we lost our dad in July, and now she's going to have to suffer the cost of these improvements, and they're quite extensive. I'm against all of it right now because the development, as you have pointed out, is not finished. There's going to be a lot of construction up there. There's still homes that aren't built, and the reason they're not built is because COVID happened and you can't either get the supplies or you can't afford them. So it'll be a couple years before we get up there. As a property owner, my taxes went up this year 37%. So now I'm going to incur another expense of sidewalks and streets and everything else, and I've driven the streets and they look okay to me and there's curbs up there, but we are going to have a lot of construction, and when those trucks rip up those roads again, who is going to pay for that? Because I don't think the burden should be on us, the people who live there. I'm not against improvements. I'm not against having a beautiful neighborhood. I'm all for it. But we need to take some other things into consideration before we make these decisions. I don't get a say on how you spend my money. That's not okay. It's just not okay. I don't come to you and tell you you have to put $20,000 into your house or your property. I asked to put a shed on my property so that I could maintain that property and mow the grass and keep it looking nice. And you know what? I can't do that because I don't have a house on the property yet, which to me doesn't make any sense. If you want a beautiful neighborhood, wouldn't you want somebody to take care of it? Luckily, I got a nice enough neighbor who has kind of taken over my lot and thinks it's his, and he mows the grass for me, so I'm okay with that. But at the end of the day, my mother has 3 lots. So that would be 3 times, and she's trying to sell one of them because my dad passed and now she's living on a fixed income. You know, so we have to take those kind of things into consideration too when we start making decisions for those. And there is going to be more development going on behind us. And those of us that do come up there, we walk on the street. We don't have a problem with it. There's no traffic. We all know who is coming through there. You might get 5 or 10 cars at a time up there because there's no place else to go. So I really wish you would think about this long and hard before you make a decision, because it's not right to put a burden of another financial thing on top of us when the taxes went up so high this year. And I don't know why that happened either, but that's a lot, 37%. On a single lot. So I just wanted to come up here and say, you know, I wish you would just put this on pause. I think we have a couple more years of major construction up there because we've got more houses to build. And then let's come back and put the road in and make it pretty and the sidewalks and whatever. But there's curbs. We don't need those either. So I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thanks.
It's my turn. I'm Doug Geisbers. I own one of the lots up there. I don't know what the address is. I'm not I'm in favor if they want to do the blacktop up there, curbs. I guess my one question is if they cambered the sewer line up there now before you go and do an overlay, other than just look down the manholes to make darn sure, you know, that we've got good infrastructure there. That stuff is over 20 years old. One thing I'm against would be the sidewalks. We're going to have hundreds of trucks come in and out of there yet with gravel, hauling out that shale. So sidewalks that's just does not fit the bill yet. Honest. You know, you guys got to listen to these guys talking out here because they know what they're talking about. So don't just glaze over, everybody's eyes glaze over, and just listen to your engineer. You've got to listen to some of these people that know what's going on out here. So on the end of the street down there, you need to do something down there. People turn around down there. You're going to end up having another mess like you got up at Mincing's up there with no place to turn around for all the trucks that bring all the deliveries in there. Everybody's fighting up there at Mincing's trying to figure out how to get turned around up in there. So it would be good at this time to do something down on that end by the future park and try to clean that up at the same time. As far as sidewalks, about the only people that are going to use that are the people that take their dog down there to take a dump. So I'm just saying, it's premature to put the sidewalks in yet. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Hello, Council. I'm Aaron Deutsch. I live 6694, the last house on the north side of the Bluff Drive. I guess me and my wife are for the overlay. really needs it. On rainy days, the water's unable to get up to the sewer runoff, so it runs down the tar and back into the Sandstone Ridge development. There's a lot of sunken spots on the tar, which leaves a lot of puddles. So it just, we're for the overlay, but the sidewalks, not so much. Don't feel the overlay should stop just at Bluff Drive. If we do the overlay, let's make that turnaround like everybody else is saying, trucks. We're on the end, so we see all the vehicles that turn around, and especially now with the snow, you see just tons of tire tracks down in that snow. So if we do something to the Bluff Drive, why not do something to Sandstone Ridge where that road is gonna need it too, so.
If we blacktop down to your other driveway, would that be just about right?
Yeah, great, go ahead, yep.
Don't listen
Keep
to
going. Yeah, well, that's so like, that may be another topic, but, along with that, Doug or somebody mentioned that road out 25, this last snowstorm, my wife had to park down at Snap Fitness because she couldn't get up the hill, so hey, if we have another route, let's put her in, that'd be great. Let's see what else we got here. Well, everybody would be, now that, he took that over, the grass cutting turned out really nice, really like that in the park. It looks a lot better. It's be nice to even clean it up even more now that the city owns it. There's couple big stumps out there that were thrown in to, I don't know, make the place look like hell. I don't know why the stumps are thrown there, but if the city owns it, let's clean her up a little bit. Keep the grass mowed. I believe everybody else does too. So let's clean that up and maintain that road. If we're going to keep people back there, let's maintain it. I guess I believe with everybody else that why are we paying for the curbs? I understand the overlay, but the curbs were put in by somebody that did it wrong. Why aren't they responsible for it? Why am I responsible for it? It just doesn't seem right to me. That overlay, yeah, we need it. We'll pay for it, but why the curbs? So that's all I have. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I guess I'll say a word. I'm Barb Quidambar, and our property is at 6671, straight across the street from Chris and Diane. I'm pretty much agree with all of these. Our main concern is that we get some blacktop, so that's a very good thing. But the sidewalks, again, sort of like everyone else has been saying, seem to be unnecessary up in our little area. We only have a few houses. Not that many people are walking, so I don't really think that's necessary. But the blacktop would be nice, and street sign would be nice. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I'm Diane Johnson. I don't actually live there, but I've walked my dog there, and no, I did not let him poop anywhere out there.
Never. Dog doesn't poop, right?
No, we went out way back in the bushes and with our bags. Anyway, I guess I wonder, these were in the thing, it said, the developer failed to do this. And so now the city, the people that live there are stuck with a bill. Is this the same developer that was Sandstone Ridge or a different one? Yeah? Because I think, what are we going to do? Obviously, we can't go back and sue the developer to pay for these needed improvements, but going forward, are we going to let that same developer or the people who work with them take on another project in town and maybe do this to us again down the road? Is there some way we as a city can say to these developers, because now we've got one on the north side of town, make them put the money in an escrow account that would pay for all the improvements that they promised to do, and that way, if they do them, they get the money back. If they don't have the money to pay for it, it just seems very unfair that developers come in, promise to do things, end up falling short, leaving, and sticking the people of Cannon Falls, and especially the homeowners on this given area, with the bill.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Bill?
So Mayor, at this point, typically you would close the public hearing and then the council would have the chance to ask me questions or discuss amongst yourself.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing on Bluff Drive. Council, questions for Bill?
One question for Bill. Someone mentioned that the curb should not be considered a first build thing. Just your comments on that.
Well, traditionally, that would be the developer, so the developer would typically put the curb in, and then normally the second lift of blacktop would be 2 years later versus 20. And at that point, they would replace the curb. That's obviously at your discretion, but that would be the standard process. The other thing is that I get asked a lot is, well, what about the value of the property, all that? And the other thing you consider is, okay, well, were these lots discounted? Were these lots cheaper? On the Sandstone Ridge, we recently talked about dollars and costs and what it costs to build those lots. And if for those of you that are on that committee that were looking at that, there's about $50,000 in fixed costs just per lot to finish the rest of Sandstone. So if you have $50,000 in fixed costs and you need 75, think about, okay, what did you pay for your lot versus $75,000 for what the rest of Sandstone would be, something to think about as well.
I've got a question about the sidewalks. Because we've talked about the future of there being a park there, I understand, I'm listening to the citizens, they don't want it. But if Sandstone Ridge someday does get developed and there is a park there, and then 15 years from now we come back and say, yep, we need a sidewalk, the cost and the assessment will probably be much greater. I understand right now, walking the streets, there's not much traffic, there's not much homes, I totally get that. But there's 15 lots up there and the park. Is there a requirement for the sidewalk, or is that our discretion?
Neil, you want to take that, or?
Yeah, according to our ordinance, and in fact, I printed it off, there's a chart, it would be called a minor collector or local street, and its sidewalk would be required on one side of the street. That's why you see it coming up, through Cedar Hills, it's all on one side.
Is there an opportunity to do it later versus now versus, they were talking like with the construction and.
That was.
I certainly get what Doug's saying. They're going to destroy it, and why put it in? I don't know how. I know there's been developments that once the house is built, you put the sidewalk in as a occupancy, final occupancy. That would be part of the agreement, and then eventually, when all the houses are built, the sidewalks are all installed. I don't know how long it's going to take to do Sandstone. That could be a while, but eventually, that sidewalk's got to get out to 25 to the trail. To make these connections, it's always a connection. Where are we trying to get to, and I get the local street. We walk on the street. I get that. Until somebody gets hit, and then that's off. But I do get what Doug is saying, and the guys are saying out here that doesn't. They'll back over that sidewalk and it'll be gone in the first week.
Absolutely.
Mayor.
Go ahead.
So in a traditional development, I say traditional, I mean traditional time frame, 2 to 3 years to build. Usually as part of the development agreement, it would say the sidewalks would be put in with the lot after the home was built, not before. So this is an unusual situation. So if the council, directed staff, we could come back with, there could be a way to, discuss with the property owners, would they, we'd have some sort of agreement that they would have to put the sidewalk in when their lot was built. There's something that could be done on that if that was your wishes.
Bill, there's concerns with the sidewalks and that they would be trashed by trucks constantly going over. Is that correct, that the sidewalks will get wrecked as they excavate? And
I would say if traditional builders don't pay a lot of attention to the sidewalk, but one of the things what we do through the building permit process, if you rake the sidewalk, then you got to replace it, property owner, and then it would be on them to work with their builder. But I would agree with Neil that people have to take care, and oftentimes builders don't. And sometimes it's the guy that shows up, delivering the trusses, and he just backs, he or she, they back over. So it's not ideal. So I do agree with the public on that.
So this is obviously a very unique situation, and we've been, on a side note, working on the Sandstone Ridge Committee. Is there a way that we can tie it into that?
If it ever goes forward.
Well, right,
Yeah.
So,
right,
because you mentioned the builder agreement, so if we get to the point finally where we get a builder for Sandstone Ridge, it kind of ties into that. Not that they would pay for it, but when Sandstone Ridge gets to the point where they're putting in sidewalks, they have to do it. Is that an option, is I guess my question.
Yes, there's various options that I think what it would be is if there was a direction from the council for Neil and I to look at that. We could look at that, and we'd talk to Sarah about what we can do for, agreements with people, individual, people.
yeah, and being on that Sandstone Committee with Laura, we do want the sidewalk to connect to 25 and the trail and stuff eventually, but we do know that Sandstone Ridge is tough based on the preliminary numbers we've seen. We're going to need the sidewalk when, I don't know, and Sandstone Ridge and Decorah Drive, those will all be finished when or if we're able to develop Sandstone Ridge. I can see not doing the sidewalk now, I guess. We can't do anything about Sandstone Road, but we definitely got to do the blacktop and curbs and the few other items that'll be on a punch list.
Yeah, I would agree. It's it's one of those things. Someone asked me once about sidewalks, and I said, "No, in Cannon Falls we don't believe in sidewalks." It's true. Really, there are only 2 blocks of Cannon Falls that have sidewalk all the way around. One of them is the one that Merchants Bank is on. I'll let you all guess what the other one is. I found it once by accident. But anyway, we just don't believe in them. And at this point, especially given, and Doug, my eyes never glaze over when you or Rick talk. I always listen when you and Rick talk, okay? Man, a few words. I think you're absolutely right that the contractors aren't going to pay attention. The main builder will, but the guy delivering the trusses, they're just, they don't care. So I would agree that we should at least delay those sidewalks. And it seems unreasonable now because there are so few houses up there, but when Sandstone Ridge hopefully gets developed, there will be people up there, and hopefully there will be foot traffic to support that. So that's my take on it.
But it would be
Are you saying you want to wait until every house is developed on the north side?
Not necessarily. No, not necessarily.
There must be some percentage, right? Because you're always going to have lots that may sit empty.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So there must be once 80% of the houses are built.
At some point, we can look at that. But I would agree at this point it's.
And I would think we would have to have something in place so that the current landowners in the affected area have to have something in writing to know that they are going to have to.
They're going to have
to pay for a sidewalk at some point. It may not be them, it may be a future owner, who knows?
Yeah.
Sarah?
Yeah, I'd recommend if you're going to consider delaying for any time, we can absolutely work out percentages and times. And you definitely want all the homeowners to agree, and you want something recorded against their property. Because the bigger issue you'll find is you'll go to put in the sidewalk. And the cost of the sidewalk, sure, but someone will have put their sprinkler heads there, someone will have put a fence there, someone will have put a shed there. And so you want to make real clear
that we've got the
so that when they
easements
come in, you say, hey, you knew this was going in and you knew this was where it was going in. So we absolutely want them to agree and then get it recorded against the property. So new owners know as well what they're getting.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
Well, if you have an agreement that to the landowners, and who's there, I say we should forget the sidewalks for now.
I agree with that.
And then can it be considered then, since the curb and gutter were there, then like in Limestone, the city paid for those to get fixed? Is that not a similar situation?
I don't think with the
No,
blacktop.
I don't think it is.
No, I don't think it is, because it was never finished to begin with.
Unfortunately, I understand that limestone was accepted by the city,
Okay.
and this project was not. This project was never finished. Yeah, did it fall apart in limestone? Yeah, but the city actually accepted the project. And so when we take over, that's when we are liable. This was never done. So when you would do a typical, as Bill said, you're going to find cracks in 2-year-old curb and gutter. That stuff would come out. And eventually, at 2 years, them cracks will come out and they'll get replaced. They'll put the blacktop down, and then we'll accept the project. Then we're responsible.
Okay.
So we got to accept the project. Sooner or later, this is a different deal. It's been going on a real long time, but the city has always got to accept the project, and then they take over responsibility.
Well, and these homeowners and property owners have not paid for this. Is that correct? I mean, they have not. Am I right?
The lots were
Very
bought
inexpensive.
extremely cheap in that $6,000-$7,000 range.
Range, yeah.
So even the added cost minus a little bit for the sidewalks, they're still getting a deal.
Those lots have got to be worth 15,000, I would think.
Rick?
Yeah.
I'm just going to respond to, Neil, to you also, that you said the city has never taken this project over, and here's the documentation, the signed signatures.
That's Sandstone Ridge, though.
Well, Bluff
Oh,
Bluff
I'm
Drive
sorry.
is
Bluff
Sandstone
Senate.
Ridge.
Sorry.
That was taken over, the school bus went through that development for 2 years, till the sags and the blacktop started, and that's when they stopped.
Go ahead, Sarah.
I can weigh in on that. So when the city takes over a project from a developer, it's an official action. The city says, yes, that is complete, we take it over, it is now our project. The plat being recorded, the work being done has nothing to do with it. So the fact that people are out there using it has nothing to do with it.
It's the dedication, right here. to
Not the
street.
dedication.
Why did the city plow it then? They plowed it for 2 years, the school buses drove
The
on it.
dedication occurs with the plat. The developer then goes out and, in theory, does all of the work. Once the work is done, the city accepts it officially, and that's when the developer's warranties start. Usually it's a 2-year warranty. So the city has not accepted this project yet.
Yeah.
Does every development have these recorded documents that you're talking about?
Well, the plats are all recorded at the county.
Yeah.
And
They
there should
go
be
to the
development
county form?
agreements.
Well,
Those usually aren't recorded.
Sarah, what do I have here?
How do you know it was or wasn't?
I know if I'm working on a project, that's how we do it.
So for the last 10 years, you know if they were accepted or not accepted because it's not recorded? That doesn't even make sense. I can't believe you'd say that.
What do you mean? What, huh? Now I'm
that long.
confused. She hasn't been here that long, for one thing.
So she doesn't know. I asked,
We don't know if it's accepted or not.
when you have a typical development, she's saying the council has to accept
That's correct.
correct.
And we have not done that.
in any development. So why you
Mayor, if I could.
wasn't accepted? That's what I want to know.
Because there's official council action that occurs. No official council action has occurred that we're aware of. That's every development. There's a motion, a resolution, a council memo from the administrator, from the engineer for every development. Now, we haven't had a lot of developments. To our knowledge, we've reviewed the file. There's no council acceptance of this project. And the reason being is, well, the project's not done, so there's no intuitively, it wouldn't make sense. Why would the council accept an incomplete project? So, number one, we looked in the files, we don't find it. Number two, it makes sense why it wasn't accepted. So, all right, so it seems plausible and reasonable to staff that that would be the case.
Can you review this document that I have? Because it has the mayor signature,
Yeah, it's a plat. It's not
2003.
It's not a development agreement. It's not a resolution. It's a plat. So it's very much it's
the
separate.
documentation signing over the streets, the cul-de-sacs.
It's not the sir. It's not the same thing, but so
They're signing it over to the city, so they're taking responsibility. At that time, they started plowing the street, they started driving the school buses through there.
That's not how it works. Once a road is platted, the city can accept it and can open it. It's not required to.
Not required. Thank you.
It's not required to accept
No
it.
proof of any other development that you have this, you just said it.
No, she didn't say that at all.
That the part of the reason for that is otherwise I could go out and plat a road back here and say, hey, city, you've got a road now. It doesn't work that way. So the dedication is step one. Once it's dedicated, the city now can accept it if it chooses to do so. And cities generally say, we're not going to accept it until it's done because we don't want a situation exactly like this. So as Bill stated, if we had evidence this had been accepted, this would be a different case. We don't. And because it's not done. This was a weird one. It was one where the developer went bankrupt in the middle, and this was before we had, nowadays, someone mentioned it, nowadays we have very clear development agreements, we have letters of credit, we have escrows, that money is used to finish the project. This one happened so long ago, we just didn't have that.
Why did you
So-
decide to accept it right now?
So usually what would happen is the developer would finish the work, the city engineer, the city administrator would say, yep, it's done, we've checked it, the punch list is done, bring it to the council and say, okay, it's done, city, confirm this. That's the acceptance. So there's the dedication that occurs initially, that gives the city the right to use it, and then there's the actual acceptance where the city says, okay, yep, it's ours. And we're in the middle of that right here. And usually it doesn't take 20 years, but it has in this case.
Okay. What does the council think?
I think we should do everything except the sidewalks.
So the sidewalks are about 24% of the total cost. So without that, that would approximately bring each lot down to about 5,300 assessed for the project, give or take.
But bear in mind that there would have to be agreements in place
Yep.
that they do have to put.
Yep, so in the future, they would have to put it in themselves, but
I did have one question. The assessment, how is that going to be broken out over, what is due and when on the assessments? Is it immediate? Is it over taxes, over X amount of time? For a couple people who brought up, certainly there's some burden.
Right, Bill can answer that.
So Mayor, so typically what would happen is after that final assessment roll, from the time frame we had before, which was that, spring time frame, then the council would set a date till they could prepay. Typically, it's to the end of the year, or I'm sorry, to November 15th. So they would have the opportunity to prepay. If they do not prepay, then it would go on their tax roll for a period that you would set, as I mentioned, oftentimes 10 years or 15 years.
I was going to say 10 years, yeah.
Yeah,
At that interest rate you mentioned.
that's correct, yep.
And so some people who are feeling a burden and a little bit freaked out by it,
Yep.
they could certainly take it on their tax side and understand that's an extremely low interest rate. I mean, given where rates are generally.
Yeah.
what have you. And it would not be as much of a burden for some people who might feel pressured by that.
Right, you'd have that option.
I know for my West End project, 5-6 years ago, it's 15 years at like 3.5% or something like that. So whatever that is per year, I can't remember offhand. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, does somebody want to make a motion that we do the project with the mill and overlay or final coat, street sign, curb and gutter, and no sidewalks?
I will make a motion to approve Resolution 2607 minus the sidewalks with the fact that there has to be an agreement with the landowners. And yes, and add a street sign. Otherwise, the project as presented minus that.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, a motion by Bill and a second by Steve to approve resolution 2607 minus the sidewalks, but an agreement's got to be made with the homeowners that that'd be done. And add a street sign. Is there any other discussion?
Before we vote, do we need to have anything addressing the turnaround point where Sandstone Road meets Bluff Drive? Obviously, the citizens had brought that up. Do we need to include anything for resurfacing there, or is this just going to end?
I think technically that'd be separate unless you were planning to add that to the assessment amount. If you were wanted to add that to the assessment, then I would specify that now. If not, then could be decided at another time.
So what's going to happen with that portion of Sandstone Road? Will it just stay as is?
I'll speak for Laura and Bill. There is a committee that's looking at that, so that's still in the works. So I don't think that's been resolved at this point.
Right.
So we don't need to include any language with.
No, not
The only thing you'd have to include is if you wanted to add that to be assessed against these 15 people. If not, then you would leave it out.
Got it. Thank you.
You want to leave it out, Matt?
I don't think they want to be assessed for
I don't want to be assessed for it, I don't think.
I'm just guessing.
Okay, the motion's made and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. We're going to move on. We've got a presentation tonight from the Cannon Falls Senior Center. Bill Hoyt, you're up.
Mayor, council members, city staff, thank you for giving me the opportunity to address you this evening about the Cannon Valley Senior Center. My name is Bill Hoyt, and I am on the board of directors at the Cannon Valley Senior Center. Proudly on the board of directors. It's really a fantastic group of people. We have 18 people that are on the board. They're very involved with it, energized by it. And in addition to that, there are many, many members of the community that have come out to help us, such as Laura over here. Thank you, Laura. With various projects that we have come up with. So it's not a static group. It's a group that is taking a look at what's the situation that we have right now. As we look at the baby boomers and the growing, how do we get to our senior members? Our income that we have, we're a nonprofit organization. And again, our focus is on the seniors. I don't want to offend anybody here, but a senior, we kind of look at that from an AARP standpoint. When you get around 50 years old, you start getting the letter in the mail.
Yeah, you're not.
But I'm not knocking AARP, and I'll come into that in a second. So, but we look at that from a standpoint of 50 years of age or older, but we certainly don't discriminate from that standpoint either. Our income comes from grants that we go out and pursue, donations that are made to us by citizens and organizations, family fair receipts. They give us a certain portion of money for what we bring back to them on receipts, memorial contributions, and the Cannon Valley Fair parking. We are the organization that coordinates that with the Cannon Valley Fair of collecting the fees for people that are coming in. And once again, there are many, many people that are involved with this, not the senior center. Our main source of income has always been from concerts and from trips that we sponsor, such as we have one that's coming up to Branson, Missouri. We had the Branson, Missouri event scheduled for last year, and because of COVID and how bad it was in the state of Missouri, we had to cancel that trip. We have day trips and we have long-term trips, but once again, because of COVID, that has impacted us significantly. One thing too, when we take a look at the concerts that we have provided in the past, and we're still hoping to do it in the future, is it's a big plus to the city of Cannon Falls. We get a lot of people that come from outside the Cannon Falls area that attend the concerts. Taking a look at what some of the things that we are doing. The Thanksgiving dinner that takes place, it's operated out of St. Pius Church, thanking them for giving us the space that we use there. We provided 165 meals to seniors during that time, typically shut-in type of people. I do Meals on Wheels as well, and I see these people that, they're people that are basically don't have anything else to communicate. And some of them are very, very former prominent members of our community. In addition to the 165 meals, I don't know if you received one, but I did get some pumpkin bars. I had to dial 911, but I got some pumpkin bars to the officers that were on duty that day.
They're really good, by the way.
Oh, thank you. We're going to be coming up this year. We're going to introduce the AARP Driver Smart program. This is a brand new program that AARP rolled out this year. We're still waiting for approval from AARP Legal to bring this out because of COVID situation. But the Senior Center is where we're going to roll out this program. There's really no cost to the program, but there's a fee that goes to the instructor, and since I'm the instructor through AARP, there won't be any fee that will be associated with this. We also provide type of exercise programs to seniors, pickleball, softball, from what I understand on the softball, we haven't won a game, and exercise classes for seniors, so it's geared towards the senior members. We do quilting, and the quilting is a lot of people will gather and they'll put together the quilts. There is one facility here in town, a very large facility, that we provided a quilt made by people at the senior center to virtually every single person that wanted one in the facility. So it's something where we collect the material and then people come together. Once again, what a great way for seniors to come together and interact. We do just a few more here. The trail rides for the seniors that we put on. The pie and ice cream in the park, we contribute everything for that ourselves. And many other events that we put on for the well-being of the seniors in our area. Due to COVID, this is kind of where we're at right now. COVID has brought, I always look at this from the standpoint of opportunities. Okay, if we can't bring people in, if we can't have concerts, if we can't take a look at road trips, then how do we reach people? And what we have done is, again, working with people, is that we have come forward with, and there have been a number of people that have been involved with this, a better way of communicating to seniors. If you take a look at Facebook now, we're on Facebook. I understand not everybody's on Facebook, but it is a good avenue by which to reach seniors, and there's a lot of good information out there for them to get involved with activities. We now have a column in the Beacon. I don't know if you've seen that, but we worked with the Beacon so that we have a column in there dedicated to the Cannon Valley Senior Center, and it's not hidden over. We kind of wanted it over there by the police report because obviously, a little humor here, but most people kind of gravitate to that. So we're promoting the Cannon Valley Senior Center for more participation with people, getting out there, getting out into the community and talking to people. If you haven't attended our hot dog fest that we put on in the Family Fair parking lot, that's another way that we're getting out to people. So we're trying to communicate, and our goal is really to get out to people that are, that can participate, or those that basically are in their home, and once again, a lot of them that I see with Meals on Wheels that have no one to talk to, and so that is a goal that we have. So to achieve this, and this is, hopefully I know that you've given us such great support in the past, but what we're asking, due to what we're seeing right now, we do have expenses. Let me talk about that first. We do have expenses. We have a director, and she is constantly busy at the center. We do have insurance that we have to pay for. We have taxes that we have to pay for, and equipment upgrades. So for us, for example, to do the AARP training, I'm going to need a large TV because I'll do it in PowerPoint. What we're asking from the council is, once again, currently you've been giving us $5,000 for quite a period of time, and we graciously appreciate that. We're asking if you would up that $2,000 to $7,000 on an annual basis to help us through this time frame. So that is essentially what I'm asking from the council tonight, from the Cannon Valley Senior Center.
Is that what we did last year? Because of COVID, you didn't have any concerts,
I believe last year, I'm going from, yes, last year it was that I came to you and you did increase it $2,000 for 1 year. With COVID and the mutations and pandemics, and I've been involved with this before I retired at the airport, but these things kind of continue on, and that's what we're seeing right now. So since we haven't approached the council for a considerable period of time, other than that one time for the $2,000 increase, what we're asking is that, on an annual basis going forward, that we receive $7,000 rather than the $5,000, so a $2,000 increase. And we would greatly appreciate it because, like I say, we've got an energetic group, and we've got a lot of people out there that are pretty enthused about moving forward and what the Cannon Valley Senior Center is doing.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll take that into consideration when we make our contributions here. Usually it's mid-year, I think, June, July, whatever. Okay, we'll consider that.
Thank you very, very much, everyone.
Bill, I have a question for you, Bill.
Yes.
The school referendum is coming up. If it does not pass, what happens to the senior center?
We've taken a look at it, and we've been in discussions with the school superintendent and board members, et cetera. We've looked at what our options will be. We've been approached at one time about, possibly having our senior center here, but that wouldn't give us a place for people to exercise. So it's not a situation of we're going to have the same thing as what we have at that school. One of the things that we are doing, and if you want to come by at between 12 and 2 tomorrow at Family Fair over here, you're going to see me handing out brochures to people that come in to ask them to vote. Vote yes. If you don't vote, that is a no vote. And so we're taking a look at this from a standpoint, and I can't speak for all people, but if I look at a $225,000 home, and the increases in your taxes, if both referendums pass, is $7.33 a month, or equivalent to a Big Mac meal at McDonald's. So for our children in this community, and I'm passionate about this obviously, but for our children in this community, let's be a leader here. I bought 2 factories for a very large manufacturer here in Goodhue County, outstate factories. And I looked at the schools, and that is what a lot of firms will do. And your tax base, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but your tax base, a large portion of it does come from industry. So that is something that, you could implode. So hopefully I've answered your question. I probably answered it longer than what you wanted, though.
Well, no, I was just curious. Like you, I certainly hope the referendum passes, but I was just curious if you guys had done any, what-if scenarios.
It's such it's right in the middle of town, it has recreation, possibilities there. It's gonna be hard to replace.
If I may, and I'll call it editorialized for just 1 second here, but I was involved in $3 billion worth of construction at the Metropolitan Airports Commission. I think my predecessor quit just 2 days before that came out, so he didn't want to deal with it. But anyway, taking a look at that, we also inherited some buildings that had to be torn down, and one we call it the Asbestos Hotel. And when you take a look then at, let's say this doesn't pass and they have to tear down or one of the facilities, let's say the facility that we're in, it's not just coming in there with a bulldozer and wrecking ball. You have remediation that has to take place. There is a lot that is involved with it. So it's not there's a huge cost that's associated with that. And with remediation right now and the lack of labor, it's going to be tough to find a firm that'll come out and do the remediation that has to be done. It's asbestos and PCB laden capacitors and stuff like that. So, so yes, we are looking.
We're aware of that. A lot of us sitting up here went to elementary school there, so.
Yes.
But thank you for your response.
Certainly. And thank you, everyone, again, for allowing me at that time.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll get into the consent agenda. Consent agenda items may be adopted under one motion as presented or may be removed for discussion and resolution as council business. For you at home and in the audience, I'll go through the consent agenda. Item A, just and correct claims for the accounting period ending December 31st, 2021. Item B, just and correct claims for the accounting period ending January 14th, 2022. C, the minute meetings for the July 4th, 2022 City Council meeting. Item D, Resolution 2608, authorizing a public hearing on the 2022 City of Cannon Falls Small Cities Development Program application. Item E, approve the election of the 2022 Fire Department officers. Item F, Resolution 2609, accepting a monetary donation from the Cannon Falls Fire Department Relief Association for $3,000 to the fire department. Resolution 2610, approving a lot split for PID number 52 and rezoning for the portion of the lot east of 63rd Avenue contingent on final sale. Item H, Resolution 2611, approving the conditional use permit for Peter Bodette at 410 Hickory Drive. And item I, Resolution 2612, approving the administrative permit for David Iverson at 301 5th Street South, Apartment 1. Is there anything the council would like to pull down? If not, I take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Montgomery, a second by Bringold to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, council business. Resolution 2613 is the final plan approval for the Keller Bartman apartment complex being proposed at 415 Hickory Drive. Neil, you want to finish that?
Sure, I'll take the zoning part of it. We did present this to the Planning Commission at their last meeting. They did approve the final plans, and recommend them to the city council. There's a couple of items that are left to be discussed. One of them was under the, there's an easement that we got drafted for water main heading over towards McDonald's. We got to figure out what we're going to do with that if we get a water main break. And then there'll be some other small things that one of them was the easement for McDonald's has got to get redrafted. Sometime you guys got to get that figured out. And some other miscellaneous stuff. But that'll come in a developer's agreement at the next meeting when we adopt the final reading of the PUD ordinance. Right now, I'll turn it over to Bill, and he'll discuss the final plans that were approved at the Planning Commission.
Well, short and sweet. They addressed all the items in our review letter, except for the ones Neil mentioned there. So the engineering recommendation is for the council to approve conditional upon the items that Neil mentioned. So.
Okay, any more questions? Any discussion? If not, I take a motion to approve Resolution 2613.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Motion by Montgomery, a second by Gisby to approve Resolution 2613, which is the final plan approval for Keller Bartman Apartment Complex. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, reports. I see Kyle's not here tonight.
I do have, Kyle did call me earlier, and she wanted me to relay some information on her behalf. And now I have to find it. Thank you, gentlemen. There is an informational chamber meeting next Thursday, January 27th at 4 o'clock at Grand Stay Hotel. And that is for anyone that is maybe interested in becoming a chamber member, any new chamber members or current chamber members. So think of it as a network opportunity. So I'm not sure how long the event would last, but it'll cover basically the chamber's mission statement, the purpose and the values of it. It'll go over any of the benefits and services, the dues, categories and fees, membership registration, the event sponsorship listing. It'll also talk about the Discover Guide, chamber dollars, merchant lists, the calendar of events, and also introduce the ambassador program. So she just wanted me to pass that along to anyone that is watching from afar. So.
Okay. Long as you're here, EDA, what do we got?
Well, we had the chamber breakfast this morning, so we kind of did our state of the city. Just kind of talked about some of our goals for EDA and talked about how we'll be doing some business visits will be one of our top priorities now that we'll be kind of actually get to be out and about a little bit more, hopefully this year, and visiting with our current loan recipients, and then looking for other opportunities that we can promote our revolving loan fund to help our businesses grow if they're looking to expand, and just concentrating on trying to figure out our housing for Cannon Falls. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. Planning Commission, Mr. Gisby.
Got to get my thing up here. Planning Commission met on Monday of last week, and we approved pretty much everything from there tonight. We put the final plan approval, move that forward to the council to approve. The conditional use permit for Peter Bodette to put in a drive-through at Subway. We discussed that and sent that forward for approval. That was approved tonight. The lot split on Bob Banks's property. We approved the lot split and the rezoning for rezone just the east side of 63rd Avenue. And the other part of the lot will be split off and stayed with urban reserve, right? Oh, boy. Okay.
Nice job.
And was that it? Did I?
Get the administrative permit on the street with the garage.
Oh, the garage,
Yeah.
removed the garage, or did just a little bit of a paperwork shuffle to put the garage as part of lot 1, or apartment 1, I'm sorry. And that was forwarded to the city council, which was approved tonight also. I think that's it. Okay.
Okay. Library board.
Nicole was going to be here. She didn't. She said she'd be here, so
Okay.
she didn't give me any marching orders.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe she.
Let's go around the horn here. Dan, anything for tonight?
Nothing today.
Hey, Bill?
Nothing additional, thanks.
Diane? Anything else? No? Tyler, you got anything?
You're expected to say something
Sarah?
every. No.
I actually do. Just to update everyone, the Supreme Court did kill the federal mandate. So based on the council's action at the last meeting, the city does not have any mandate on masks or vaccination or testing for its employees. So if something were going to come up, it would have to be a new item. As of now, that is all dead.
Okay.
Okay, Neil?
Just one item, I was informed today that we're one step closer in the legislature for John Birch Park. We got on the governor's list, so we're one step closer.
Awesome.
Let's keep the momentum.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go. Laura, anything tonight? Nope, I'm good. Matt?
I'm just going to go with what Neil said and say thank you to everybody, the hard work that Laura put in, the members of the Bears, all the time that we spent at park boards talking about what we can do with John Birch Park, and now to know that thanks to the governor, we are one step closer. We just got to rely on the Congress now and wait for the final approval. So that's a big hurdle, and that's almost $500,000 that our city will not be on the hook for. So, but John Birch Park, this is the 100-year project, something that we see that has to happen, and it feels great to know that we're that much closer.
Bill?
Nothing.
Derek? Mary Jo?
Nope.
Steve?
One thing, and I hate to keep repeating myself, but doggone it, Dan, your boys are doing such a good job out there. I tell you what, Saturday morning, you guys were all done by sunup, weren't you?
Plowing, yeah.
What time did you come on that night? Midnight?
Various times.
Yeah, a couple times you went past.
Nothing but good reviews from everybody, and I think you do an
Yeah,
excellent.
really, they're
Pass
doing
that
great.
on to the guys that actually do it. That's all I got.
Well, just what Matt was talking about the legislature, we really had fun that day. It was Laura and I and Neil and Bucky Lindau and Keith Myers, and we met with the legislators down in Red Wing on their bonding bus tour, they called it. And we gave out popcorn and Cracker Jacks, and we had our signs what the before and after things were going to look like on the wall, and Laura working on that. And I'll tell you, there was other people there, but we had their undivided attention that day, so it really went good. So hopefully they do something in the legislature on that.
That's great.
Other than that, the only meeting that we got coming up before our next council meeting is the trail board meets on the 25th of January, so that's the only one. And that being said, I take a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Lundell, second by Montgomery. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Can I talk to you a minute?